If you have ever been interested in Rupert Murdoch and his influence on politics and public life, you're going to have to learn a new name, Lachlan Murdoch, the son who will now inherit the empire. Succession is over. I think this means the empire stays together. The Times and The Sun in the UK remain under Murdoch ownership, and the conservative bias of the media in Britain and America is, if anything, enhanced. I say I think because I don't know, but perhaps my next guest does. Katie Robertson is the media industry reporter for the New York Times, and she wrote the piece Lachlan Murdoch, the media prince who would be king. Katie, thank you very much indeed for joining me. Can I ask, first of all, you to paint a little bit of a picture of Lachlan Murdoch? He is pretty clearly the most conservative of the adult children.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. Yes, he is undoubtedly the most conservative, and we've been able to see this through court documents from the fight they've had over the family trust, as well as, emails and depositions and text messages from a case some of your listeners might remember, which was a defamation case brought by Dominion Voting Systems against Fox News over the 2020 presidential election. So we can see from, his own writing that he definitely is proud of what Fox News is doing, and he wants to stick to that political bent.
And the essence of this court case is that, or the settlement, I should say, is that Lachlan gets Fox News, he gets the News UK, the News International brands, he gets everything in terms of power, and his three siblings are bought out and will all be billionaires as a result.
Yes, I mean, they already were billionaires, but they're adding more to the fortune now and really getting what they wanted. They've wanted him to buy them out for some time, and he wasn't willing to pay, enough to keep them happy. But now with this deal that they've come to, Lachlan remains in power, will stay in power. The new trust that they're going to establish goes till 2050. So it is going to be decades more of really the Murdoch media empire as we know it under Rupert's son.
So Lachlan now becomes, in effect, one of the most powerful people in the world, certainly in the world media. London-born and educated in the States, but he now bases himself in Australia, where his father came from, of course. What more can you say about him?
Sure. He proudly identifies as Australian, and as you said, he wasn't born there, and he did all his schooling in the US. He went to Princeton. But he has just identified so strongly with Australia over the years. He went there in his early 20s to work in News Corp's Australian newspapers and kind of get a sense of the family business. And there's something about the lifestyle, about, the Australian spirit that he just has really identified with. So he moved his whole family there during the pandemic, and now does that commute, which anyone who's ever flown anywhere from Australia knows is not a short commute from Australia, from Sydney to LA, frequently to New York. Often we're told he works, he has to work overnight, and he has to get calls at midnight because of the extreme time difference between News Corp and Fox headquarters and Sydney, Australia.
And I don't know whether it's possible to talk about what he might do with the empire now, but he inherits a relatively traditional media empire, the television or the newspapers, but he himself has been fascinated by new media, the online world.
He has. And we're seeing a little of that in his leadership with Fox recently. They bought a big podcasting company this year that has, funnily enough, some former Fox stars as part of it, such as Megyn Kelly. So they're getting into the podcasting space, and they've also just introduced a streaming app for Fox. So they're getting into the streaming game as well. So he does have an interest in expanding on that and the new forms of media, as you said. And it'll be interesting to see what he does with the print products, and which are obviously a much weaker part of the businesses.
Absolutely. Kate, final question, really. The old man, Rupert Murdoch himself, 94 now, I think. Do you believe that he will carry on as the effective, because he's still very involved in all the businesses, he hasn't lost his mental sharpness? Is he going to carry on right to the end, do you think, or does he stand back at this point and say, Lachlan, my son, it's over to you?
Well, Well, he has a title of Chairman Emeritus at this point, so he technically has stepped back, but I think we can see clearly how closely the two are, that he wanted Lachlan all along to be his successor and has made him in his own image, and I am sure is frequently in touch with him about all kinds of things. But look, this is his company, this is his business that he's done for some 7 decades, so I do not think he's stepping back till the end.
I can sort of see Brian Cox snarling at both of us, Kate. Thank you very much indeed for that.